Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Aaron Trevino, and we have an awesome guest this morning. We have Chris Pesek. He is a broker associate out in Dripping Springs, outside of the Austin area. What's going on, Chris?
Not much, Aaron. How are you, man?
I'm doing just fine. I'm real excited for this, and we've had this in the works for a little bit. So it's great to see you, and it's great to have you on the show.
Man, I appreciate it. And thanks for actually giving me a reason to get up on a Saturday early. I mean, getting me on, I guess I chose the time, but getting me on here at 9 in the morning. I mean, I had to rush this morning. There wasn't any sleeping until 7. I had to get up at about 6. So, thanks for getting me out of bed.
Absolutely. It sounds like. Do you have a morning routine, or what are you up early for?
Yeah, well, 6 o'clock sleeping in for me. Typically I'm up at about 4:30, workout at 5, shower, get ready for the day, all of that. Um, I I guess I'm a rare person where if I'm not working by 8 o'clock, my day is just all off. So I've got to get up, get early and get my day going. So yeah, that's typically my routine. Getting up at 4:30. Nice.
4:30. That's right. It definitely sets the pace for your day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, it helps that I'm getting older because when I was younger, there's no way that I was getting up at 4:30. I couldn't do it. But now, for some reason, I can't sleep past 5. So on very rare occasions, Saturday I force myself, and like I said, 6 o'clock, 6:30, I'm usually up anyway. So
Absolutely. So you get your workout in. You get ready to go. You start in at 8 o'clock. What are you working on right now?
man, with and so I don't know when you're going to put this out, but it is August 28th or 29th, August 29th. See, I'm getting older. I can't see. Um, August 29th, 2020. And the biggest thing that I'm working on in real estate, aside from my social media productions and videos and stuff like that I'm doing, the biggest thing I'm working on is trying to find uh, inventory for buyers. It is brutal out there right now, especially down Dripping Springs, South Austin, Kyle Buda. It's a feeding frenzy. So that's the biggest thing I'm doing is I think I've got a backlog of probably 10 or 11 buyers, and I can't find them the house they want. So that's pretty much that starts my day. Just seeing what came on the market the night before and seeing if it'll match anybody. So
Yeah, that's definitely kind of what's tough right now. I mean, it's tough, but also a lot of opportunity considering how many people live here in Texas, how many people are moving, and then, the housing shortage we have.
that's right. It's really been interesting this year. I mean, obviously we've got coronavirus and all that other stuff, and it's really changed. The more people I talk to, the different stories that I hear, but it's all the same thing. People that are in place in Texas don't seem to be moving. Even if they had plans to move, I had 3 sellers this year that were going to sell. And, when it came time to sell, they're like, no, you know what, we're just going to stay put because we don't know what's going to happen with coronavirus. And, okay, I didn't either. Um, but then hindsight being 2020, looking back, and I've called them all a few times saying, if you still want to sell, you need to sell because everything is flying, because resale inventory is just not there, because that's the sentiment for most sellers is we're not going to do anything right now. We're going to wait to see what happens. And so my resale, I've had 7 listings this year, and 6 of them have had multiple offers. That's that's absolutely insane. And of those 6, there were 3 of them that okay, I could tell right away they're going to be multiple offers, pretty unique houses, special houses. The other 3, in any other given year, they were not going to be multiple offers. And the fact that they were just completely shocked me. The 7th one, by the way, was a $1.3 million listing down in Wimberley, and I almost had multiple offers on that one also. I thought I was going to end up multiple offers at the last minute. The other buyer said, no, you know what? It's not exactly what I'm looking for. And if I'm spending over $1 million, it needs to be what I'm looking for. So almost multiple offers on a luxury property, which is pretty unheard of in its own right. So that's a story across the board when you talk to agents. And it's also in farm and ranch, commercial, the commercial agents I've talked to and the deals that I'm trying to find for commercial buyers, same thing. everything's hard to find right now.
So you think so? You think more so it's hard to find, considering a lot of people that just have that, we'll wait and see strategy, or is there anything else going on?
A lot of it, I think the vast majority of it's that wait and see, and people are, man, I can go, so I'll go back a little bit and kind of just talk about what I'm seeing in Dripping Springs, Southwest Austin, South Austin in general. Everybody's moving to Austin. Okay, everybody knows, Apple's here, and Tesla's coming, and what are the other big ones? Help me out. I mean, there's been so many big ones. What's not being talked about is the Army Futures Command that went into downtown Austin. Zoho Zoho made the area east of the airport cool before Tesla even thought about buying out there. I don't know if you're familiar with Zoho or what they're doing, but they bought, I want to say it's 300 acres. They're going to put in a couple of 100,000 square feet for a campus there. I actually know one of their, he's not a founder, but he's very, very high up in Zoho. And their whole thing is they're trying to take local people and train them in what they want for their web-based systems. And so they're going into Del Valley High School, and they're trying to put things in place with Del Valley so that they're taking kids directly out of high school who are not going to go to college, put them into their own training, and develop their teams that way. Zoho is a huge global company. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of employees they have worldwide, and nobody knows they're going in Southeast Austin, and that's, I think, I can't verify this. I think that's one of the other reasons that Tesla ended up going in there, is because they're going to be drawing from that same talent pool. The Army Futures Command, I think there's 500 people downtown, but again, what a lot of people don't know is there's billions of dollars that they're having to spend on R&D. And so we've got all these smaller companies that are coming into the Austin area that are all vying for those federal dollars, and nobody's talking about that. So people are coming into Austin. Everybody says all the people from California are moving here, or all the people from Chicago or the Northeast. Guys, they're coming from around, and it's not just Austin, it's Texas in general, because I know that Dallas is adding stuff. San Antonio is adding industry faster than I think anybody in Texas right now. But all these people are flooding here because of the opportunities, not only with jobs, but just they're bringing their businesses here so they can try to get some of that money from your Teslas, from your Zoho, from your Army Futures Command and things like that. And so once they get here, they're setting up shop. They're not, these houses are, usually when I got into the industry in 2011, the standard was 4 to 7 years. That's how often people are selling their homes, 4 to 7 years. And now it's gotten to be, I think the last I heard was 6 to 10 years. So what we're seeing in Texas is people are moving into their homes and they're staying put because of these opportunities. They're being pretty selective in where they're going based on these businesses. And once they get here, they're done, because they know that now they're, whatever business they brought here or whatever industry they're in, it's here to stay. Guys, Apple's not going anywhere. I'm trying to think of the ones on Southwest Parkway, and I'm drawing a blank, but all that tech industry along Southwest Parkway, they're not going anywhere. NXP is the one I was thinking. I don't even know if it's NXP anymore. So you have people that are occupying houses, not selling them, and then you have more people trying to come in. And so that leads us to where we are right now. I just looked before we got on Dripping Springs. We've got a total of 130 listings right now. There are 100, and I might screw these up, but there's over 100 pendings and 110 homes sold last month. So essentially we've got one month of inventory. And not to mention, of the 130 active properties, more than half of those are new homes that are not constructed yet. So in essence, we've got less than 50 homes that are actively on the market that can be moved into tomorrow. That's an insane housing market. And it's the same, I'm seeing a lot of industrial type warehouses pop up out in this area, and it's the same thing in those. As soon as they're put on the market, they're being snapped up, and a lot of it's investors that are buying them and then renting them out to people that again are moving their businesses here because of all the stuff that's going on around Austin. So is that a long, convoluted enough answer for you as to what's happening?
No, that was some great insight there. It's interesting how it kind of like you said, it's kind of across the board in residential, industrial, even in commercial, you're kind of seeing these
Yeah.
same recurring themes.
The only thing that I don't know yet, and this is the one that I get asked a lot about, and I'm not in office space enough to explain what's going to happen or to even posit a guess. But the interesting thing for me moving forward is what's going to happen to your large office spaces. Again, your big ones, Apple, Zoho, those, they aren't going anywhere, but they're building their own campuses. What's going to happen to this downtown office space? The office space in that corridor out here by the Y. That's the big question, and I think that's one that we're going to see a lot of change in the next 5 years. I just don't know what it is, and you may have more insight on that than I do.
Fair enough. No, I was just talking to a friend, oddly enough, yesterday about this, and I mean, frankly, I don't know what we're gonna do with all the square footage. I mean, you have companies like, I mean, you have Steinmart, you have even
Yeah.
franchises like Luby's,
Mm-hmm.
J.C. Penney, Macy's. What are we gonna do with all this space, and how would it, what would we do with them?
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, if you look back and in Austin, one of the examples is the old Highland Mall. That had been, if you don't know where the Highland Mall is, it's basically up where 290 comes into 35 on the north side of Austin. So that was the mall back in the day when I was a kid. And then it kind of went away because you had Barton Creek Mall and Lakeline Mall. And so just like all old malls, it disappeared. The vendors went to different spots. So you had this big cavernous open building. Well, I think the only thing in there at this point is Austin Community College, but they've essentially turned that into a community college campus, which is great. They got it for pennies on the dollar, and now it's being, maintained, and you've got something that's useful out of it. Again, what's going to happen to all these huge areas that are going to end up empty, and that's not just coronavirus, like you're saying. That's Amazon. That's your I can't think. Amazon's the only one I can think of, but these people are going out of business because of technology and things that continue to go forward. So what's going to happen? And it ticks around in the back of my mind. I'm always trying to figure out, what can you do with 50,000 square feet of essentially warehouse? Hell, if you can figure it out and build a replicating model that'll work anywhere, you are going to have a lot of opportunity in the next 10 years. I guarantee that.
Sure, absolutely. It's kind of tough to see what that replicating model is. I mean, you look
Yeah.
at, there's so many moving pieces. You have people wanting to get into the city. You have people, now with coronavirus, they're wanting to move out of the city. They're wanting more acreage. You're having all these different moving pieces, and it's hard to tell where the market will go.
Yeah, absolutely. If you had a crystal ball, you'd be in good shape right now.
What I find interesting too, you even see people, buying homes in Killeen and being willing to commute to Austin now.
That's right. And I've seen the same thing happening, and I don't do a lot of North Austin, but I do have some clients. Lago Vista historically has been really I say the market there has been suppressed. And just quick little story on it. I do a lot of videos in Dripping Springs. What can you buy for 500,000, 600,000, and things like that. And I was in Lago Vista looking for some clients, and there were two brand new houses, contemporary looking houses, beautiful homes. And I was like, yeah, I've got time. I'll jump on, do a Facebook Live. And what I ended up doing was, because most of my following is in Dripping Springs and South Austin, what I did was, hey, I'm going to show you this house. I'm going to give you all the specs. You tell me what this house is worth, what the price is on it. And so I'm going around showing it. It was 2,300 square feet. Really nice house, nice finishes. And when it came down to it, everybody in Dripping Springs is saying that's a $500,000 house. It's a $550,000 house. In Lago Vista, it's a new build, and they were on the market for $390 and sitting there after they're complete, and they're sitting there for $390. Nobody's buying them. So $120,000 spread in people's minds down here. That's what Lago Vista is. It's a little bit of a suppressed market value wise. And it's always been, historically, it's been because of the windy road, 1431 going out there. But what I'm seeing right now is there's more and more builders that are going out, buying up lots, building houses out there, and they're selling them. So it's the same thing you're talking about. People are willing to get a little bit further outside the city, because from downtown Lago Vista without traffic is about 45 minutes, depending on where you are. But people are willing to do it. And then that kind of takes us to the next thing that coronavirus is doing, is it's showing a lot of companies, everybody's talking about this, that you don't have to actually go into your office to do your work. And so when employees have more, more freedom like that, if they're going into the office 1 day a week or 2 days a week as opposed to 5, they're willing to drive a little further. Lago Vista, 45 minutes. They'll go to Killeen and it'll take them, an hour and 15, hour and a half to get downtown. Or, again, with all the industry that's going in, up off of Ronald Reagan Boulevard and that north stretch between, Kalahari, Round Rock, Hutto, all of that stuff. Now Killeen is 45 minutes to an hour. So it's almost like downtown Austin is growing out, and we're getting these little extra epicenters that people can now live further out and travel into easier. So again, diatribe on what you're saying, but yeah, it's being seen. Same thing south. People are now moving to San Marcos and Canyon Lake and Blanco and Johnson City, because they can still get into South Austin in an hour. And the people that are coming here from out of state, a lot of them are used to an hour commute anyway, so they don't care.
I didn't think of that last part about people coming from out of state and them not caring.
I've got a buyer now from San Francisco. He goes into the office every day. Well, he was before coronavirus, hour and a half drive. I'm like, how far do you want to be from where your office is? He said, I don't care, as long as I'm closer than an hour and a half. Crap, you can live in Waco and be an hour and a half. Let's condense this a little bit, So there you go.
Yeah, it is interesting, being that, people will move into town, and a lot of their parameters would be, not only the price, but I just want to be close to work. But now, if you're just having to, I've heard of some companies, you can work from home. You come in for, maybe Monday, 12 noon, the company will provide you lunch, you check in with them, and you maybe have a little debriefing, a meeting or something. And then you go home. So really you're spending 4.5 days of the 5-day work week at home.
That's exactly right. And that's changing. So from the residential real estate side, and also, I do some multifamily, and I'm a part of a development company that we're actively looking for multifamily development property. And it's changing what those properties look like. On the residential side, I've got more people that are looking for a house with 2 offices, because if you've got 2 people living at home, married or whatever, and they're both working from home, okay, well, now they both need their own office, because if I'm on a Zoom call with you, my wife is on a Zoom call with her school, we can't be in the same room. And then right now it's compounded, because if you've got kids at home and all that other stuff, it's even worse. But, people are looking for 2 offices. The answer, or the question that I keep getting more and more is, especially out here in Dripping Springs, what kind of internet's available? Is it the the direct line of sight little satellite internets, or is there Spectrum? Is there AT&T available here at the house? So that's becoming a lot bigger deal, and I think that's slowing growth more than anything right now, because I've got clients that are taking out everything west of Dripping Springs because there's just not very good internet out there right now, and stuff down around Driftwood and Wimberley, people are kind of avoiding because it doesn't have, they don't have access to Spectrum everywhere, or AT&T, and they damn sure don't have Google Fiber, so all of this is kind of, it's changing what our houses look like. Custom builder that I deal with, he said that's what he's getting to, is people are asking for things that they weren't asking for last year, in terms of what they need in a house. So
sure, it definitely seems that way. You have maybe husband and wife, wanting different rooms to work from. You have the kids elsewhere. And it kind of seems like you're seeing, at least with smaller square footage, more, I guess, master bedrooms upstairs.
Um, in in the master plan communities, that's happening more. Um, because they're trying to maximize the number of lots they can get in. So you're the newer master plan communities. The newest one out in Dripping Springs is Big Sky Ranch, and I don't think they have an option available that's larger than a 70-foot lot because they're trying to pack in as many as they possibly can. And we could talk about that community, in terms of price point and all of that stuff. But the newer communities, they are trying to get more housing in, because the builders know, and the local entities know, when they're approving these neighborhoods, that again, people are not moving out of their houses as often. So it's going to be there for the builders to make up the slack. So you need to get more housing in per development than you did 10 years ago. Um, you know, but if you take that and look at things on acreage and custom builds, those are actually getting larger right now. People, last year, 2 years ago, and this is coming from the guy who built my home, the people a couple of years ago were looking for, 3,300 square feet, 3,500 square feet. They didn't want a big home. And in their mind, that was anything over 3,500 square feet is a big home. But now everybody's been asking for 4,500 and 5,000 square feet. So those custom builds are getting larger. Again, if you've got the ability to live out on acreage and not have to go in to your office every day, a lot of times you're going to have the funds that you can build whatever you want. And so again, those people, they want, okay, I need a big game room that I can just throw my kids during the day and let them do their thing while I'm in my office and my wife is in her office. And then, by the way, outside, I'm going to need a $150,000 swimming pool and patio area. So the custom build stuff is actually escalating very quickly in size and cost. At least the people I'm talking to. So yeah, I think you're seeing a couple of different things based on price point. Um, you know,
Sure, absolutely. Again, a lot of those moving pieces. It sure does seem that consumer behavior has changed a lot in Austin. Where I know you mentioned it a bit, about Austin, moving south, moving southeast. Are there any other areas that you see growing, or what do you see growing in the next 5 to 10 years?
in this area, I mean, North Austin is, excuse me, North Austin is just going to keep growing, because there's always, and I laugh, and this kind of sounds disparaging, but it's not. There's always another cornfield to buy. The farmers really don't. They're not wanting to sell their land, but unfortunately, and I don't know, I don't know what your audience is, but I'm just going to be blunt. Our farmers are typically older and they're dying off, and their kids don't want to deal with the land, so they're selling land to developers, and so there's always going to be another cornfield to buy cheap, and build another neighborhood. So that's what you're seeing now. Burnett, Liberty Hill, Georgetown, Hutto, Taylor, all of that stuff is just exploding, and it's going to continue to explode up I-35, I think. Same thing southeast of Austin. Again, you got Tesla just announced. It was funny. I went, and I think it was 2 or 3 days after Tesla announced, I just pulled up all listings in that, call it east and southeast of the airport, and the number of listings tripled since the day that, like in the 3 days since Tesla announced. The number of listings out there tripled. So many of them were 0 days on market, 1 day on market. As soon as it announced, everybody threw their property on the market. And of course, they're throwing it on the market for the highest number they can even, hell, they're not even justifying it. They're just trying to get a number. So obviously that area is going to grow because now, the land is available to be purchased. Everything up and down the 35 corridor, between San Antonio and Austin. I mean, when you've got Google and Amazon and all those, putting subsidiaries in down there, I think San Marcos, I think they're talking about expanding their airport also. I had heard that a couple of times. So everything up and down the 35 corridor, pick a spot, go get a good deal on it and go buy it. And then the same thing, and I don't know if you talk to a lot of people about this, but the corridor out of San Antonio up 281 is growing really quickly. I can't remember the name of the first community, but basically 281 now is going to be a freeway to Bulverde. And, above that, you've got Blanco and Johnson City are directly in line of sight of it. And you got San Antonio Airport is there on the northwest side of town, and 281 runs right by it. So again, that whole corridor is just growing at a rapid pace out towards Austin. So that's kind of the next 5 to 10 years. And obviously what I could say is everything around Austin, pick a major road out of Austin and go get in the way of progress, and it's going to hit you. That's that's just what's happening.
Fair enough. And for you,
try to find a good school district. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
pick a major road, get in the way of progress in a good school district.
Okay. Understood. So, I know you kind of touched a bit on what's going out by the lake, North Austin, South Austin. You kind of spoke a little bit about Dripping Springs. What all are you doing in Dripping Springs right now? And what sort of projects are you looking to do in the future?
We've got a multifamily place that we entitled, it was a commercial plot. We entitled it multifamily. We're actually selling that. We're about a little over 90 days out on that. Me personally, in this development company, it's kind of anything for a buck. If it makes sense, and it makes sense in Dripping Springs, we're interested in it. I've got the group is all Dripping Springs local. A lot of the money is Dripping Springs local, and basically it's just a bunch of people that want to have a say in what Dripping Springs looks like in 25 years. So that's what we're trying to do. We're looking at a multi-use site right now with some single family, some multifamily, some office condo, stuff like that, with some entertainment and things built in. People think of Domain, it's nowhere near that level, but a similar concept. So we're kind of looking for some potential spots for that. Looking at trying to think what else I can actually talk about. Potential, smaller developments, 20 to 30 acres, going in, buying some land, subdividing, putting in spec houses, stuff like that. So that's kind of a short way of saying, if it makes sense, if it makes money, let's do it.
Okay. So I guess just for someone who wouldn't know,
Yep.
Let's assume that you do have that cornfield and you're looking to buy it. How do you go about subdividing land? How do you go about kind of, understanding how much space to allocate per lot? How do you go about that?
The way I go about it is I surround myself with people who know what they're doing. So what we use, first of all, my business partner has been dealing with entitling property and stuff like that for 10 years. So looking at the base zoning and figuring out what you want to do, and then trying to decide, okay, how do I get from the base zoning to what I want? And that requires going back into, city zoning and seeing what they've done historically, and if they would allow it. It's a lot of research is what it is. If you don't have anybody like I've got, I'll drop a couple of names on here. Keepers Consulting, her name is Rika Keepers. I think she's based out of Round Rock, but she does kind of the whole area. She specializes in that, going in and figuring out exactly what I just said. Okay, what is it? What can we get it to? Does it make sense? Is it highest and best use? And so she has a consulting company that she does that exact thing. And then the other thing that you've got to have is you've got to have a civil engineer that has done stuff in the past. So, if it's a cornfield, great, it's a cornfield, you think you can go in, but you've got to have a civil engineer that understands, how much concrete can you put in? How much asphalt can you put in? How many retention ponds do you need to put in? So this is all stuff that you've got to do during what they call your free look period, when you've got something under contract. And and you're basically trying to figure out, is what you want to do feasible? If it's not feasible, is there something else feasible that you can make money on, or do you need to get out of the contract? And since I talked about Ricka, my civil engineer is my cousin, Brushy Creek Engineering, Aaron Pesek. He's damn good at what he does, and unfortunately for him, he knows how to deal with the city of Austin and a lot of the other city entities around. So people keep asking him to do that, and it drives him up the wall, because everybody knows how fun it is to deal with the city of Austin. But since he's got that experience with these municipalities, people keep using him for that. Because it cuts down on the time that you're paying for somebody to research if somebody's already experienced in that area. So, just like with Ricka, she's experienced in Central Texas, and it's not like what they do is there's people that do land consulting everywhere. They're just the people that we use and that we know. So.
Sure. Of course. It definitely seems like, you want to kind of line everything up before you get under contract, because, once you're under contract, the clock is ticking, and, time is money.
Clock is ticking, time is money, and you're having to pay people. I mean, obviously, Rick is a consultant. She doesn't work for free. You're having to get architectural renderings and stuff like that, because if you're, like in Dripping Springs, something is zoned commercial, and you're trying to get it into multifamily. Okay, well, you've got to show the city and the planning and zoning and all those people. You got to show them exactly what you want to do. So you're shelling out thousands and thousands of dollars on drawings and conceptualized plans and all of that stuff. You want to do it as fast as you can, because again, not only is time money, but you're spitting out money, and that's why you need to have somebody with you that knows exactly what they're doing. And I'll be honest with you, 2 years ago, I had zero idea about any of this world, and I just happened to meet somebody who's a hell of a lot smarter than me and who is experienced with it. And I've been learning, along the way. So now I kind of understand what's going on. If you're an investor and you are just, hey, I want to do this, but you haven't done it before, swallow your pride on your first deal or two and attach yourself to somebody who has done it, because if not, you're going to lose a lot of money. It's the old saying has been that for a subdivision or a development, the first developer, they go bankrupt, they're gone. The second developer tries to sell it for zero loss. The third developer is the one who actually makes money. And a lot of that is rooted in the fact that people decide they want to do real estate development, and they just go into it, and they don't have anybody that knows what they're doing working with them. So there you go. There's your investment advice. Find somebody smarter than you and grab onto their coattails and just get drug along.
There's a lot to be said for that. So I'm curious, what kind of, I know you said a few years ago you kind of linked up with this other really experienced person. What kind of motivated you to even get into development?
I think it's not that I'm unique or had different thoughts than anybody else. It's always been my background is in building houses. So in my mind, I was always looking for property that I could, subdivide, put a spec house on. If it's 5 acres and I can cut it into 2.5, if it's 10 and I can put 4 lots on it, that's always been in my mind. And so, and again, that's something that I understand. I've done it before on a personal level. That's no problem. So the development part was normal. And personally, I'm always I always try to ask questions and figure out what other people know that I don't know, because the one thing that I kind of appreciate about myself is I know that I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I'm just trying to figure out who is and learn what they know. So, when you meet somebody and you start having conversations and you realize, okay, this guy has experience doing this, what I want to do, but he's got experience doing it on a much grander level. When he starts talking about, hey, this is what I would like to do. Okay, now just go down that path. So it wasn't that I wasn't interested in land development. It was just on a scale that's this big. And when somebody said, hey, I want to do something on a scale that's this big, I go, okay, that sounds like a great idea, because I can see what's happening in the surrounding areas, and I can see the use for it. So that's kind of how that all came about, I guess.
Sure, absolutely. And it definitely does help to have that experience that you did,
Yeah,
with building, understanding, spec homes, understanding square footage, and kind of seeing the big picture here.
definitely, definitely. Um, I don't know, man. We covered a lot of ground here. One other thing that I was going to mention a while ago, and this is a little bit more on the, what we were talking about people that have, they have the ability to kind of live anywhere they want right now. The other thing that I'm seeing is, used to be if you had to be downtown for an office, I had people say, I want to be within a 30-minute drive of downtown. Okay, find me something that I can afford in 30 minutes of downtown, and either you can or you can't. And then you kind of start going out in little increments, 5-minute circles, basically, to the old drive till you qualify type thing. Okay, and that kind of tells you where you can live. But now what I'm finding more, and it may just be because I'm in Dripping Springs, um, but even the people that I have that are buying in areas outside of Dripping Springs, again, Lago Vista, anywhere else, because they can pick where they're going and they don't have to go into an office. I see them focusing on different things now. And you mentioned it a while ago. One of the things is a lot of people want a little bit more room. They don't want their neighbors on top of them. And coronavirus has highlighted that. When this whole thing started, I live on 3.5 acres and my driveway is about 1,000 feet long. So my wife would go, when she got frustrated of being inside, she would just go out and walk the driveway. And she made the comment to me, it's really, really nice that I can go out, walk the driveway. I don't see anybody. And it kind of clicked to me right there. And that's exactly what happened. People that deal in ranches and acreage and stuff have told me that their phones are ringing off the hook, and have been this whole time, because people are, again, they can choose where they're living because most of their stuff is being done virtually right now, and they don't see it actually going back to where they're having to go into the office. A lot of companies, I was reading, I think it was Wall Street Journal, New York Times, um, and I don't read those very often. It was just a headline that caught my attention. But a lot of these companies are seeing actual increases in productivity with their workers being at home. And so why would you, as a large company, if you don't have to have somebody inside, if you're not manufacturing, if everything's web-based, why would you bring people back in if you're seeing higher productivity with them out? I personally, if I was the head of a company, I would say go live wherever the heck you want, and just keep producing. So I think that's probably what we're going to see. So now people are focusing on getting some room. You can drive out and get a lower price point. You can get a hell of a lot bigger house where I'm from in Shiner for the same money that you can in Dripping Springs. I mean, if you go to Shiner and spend $500,000, you're buying acreage, and you still have good internet connectivity. You can do whatever you need, and you're an hour and 45 minutes from Austin. I've got my cousin is an agent down there, and he's like, yeah, my phone's never quiet. People from Houston, San Antonio, Austin are all calling because they want to move out to the country now. And then the other part of that is, especially people that have kids, they want to go to a good school district, which is why Dripping Springs is so busy right now. I think, it's pretty close to Austin, but it's also a great school district. Lago Vista is another one. Again, they're putting houses out there because it's a great little school district. Burnett, Liberty Hill. Again, people are mobile, so they're going to go pick things that are important to them. Let me get on some land. Let me have a good school district that I can put my kids in. So there you go.
Sure. Yeah, you made a real interesting point. I like what your wife had mentioned, how about her wanting to get some fresh air, her wanting to go outside and only having to walk the driveway. It kind of seems like that'll be a recurring theme with
Yeah,
other people.
that's right. It definitely is. The the way, to me, and I don't know if you've heard the saying, and I don't remember exactly how it goes, but basically industry follows rooftops, or commercial follows rooftops, or whatever. So as I think, people that are looking into investment and places to put their money, again, people are spreading out from Austin. The area is getting bigger. It's traveling up and down the corridors. And, highlight, I was looking with a client of mine in Santa Rita Ranch, which is up technically between Liberty Hill and Georgetown. And he made the comment, where are the closest restaurants? And I'm like, well, in Georgetown or, back down Ronald Reagan. And he kind of seemed a little bit concerned. And I had to tell him the same thing. Look, the opportunities here, all these communities are going in, Santa Rita Ranch, I think is going to end up being like 4,000 or 5,000 rooftops. Okay. There are going to be businesses that are putting restaurants right outside of that place because those people don't have anywhere to go eat. They've got to travel. Okay. So your commercial, your office and everybody like that, they're trying to acquire land and build, because trust me, as soon as McDonald's goes in on the corner, or no, I won't say McDonald's, as soon as Whataburger goes in on the corner, that Whataburger is going to be packed every day. Chick-fil-A, it's going to be packed every day because you've got 4,000, 5,000 houses and you're the only game in town. And then other people are going to want a piece of that pie. So the commercial, the restaurant space, the bar space, all of that is just going to continue to follow wherever wherever the people are moving. So if you're an investor looking to do stuff like that, just figure out where people are moving and go buy a cornfield.
Yep. It sure is interesting. You would kind of, talked about the cornfields. You talked about even smaller communities like Burnett, Liberty Hill, even your hometown of Shiner. It just kind of seems like these small little communities are, really projected to grow quite a bit.
They're thriving. It's I'm trying to think of the kind of the way to describe it or talk about it. But you had, for a long time, you had people that were flocking into the cities for jobs. And that's the reason your cities were growing. And again, we talked about it with Austin. You've got all these industries coming in, and so people are flocking into the cities for these jobs. But now you've got people that have the ability to get the heck out of the city. And so, you've got people going both ways. And if you're getting out of the city, why are you getting out of the city? Well, you want maybe a slower pace of life. You don't want people on top of you like we talked about, but you also still are going to want some creature comforts. You need a grocery store, you need a burger place to go, you need a Dairy Queen or whatever. And like you said, where are you finding that? Well, you're finding that in Burnett. Liberty Hill's growing pretty fast. There's a couple of big subdivisions there. Another one that's growing really quickly and people never talk about is Smithville. Smithville's gaining a lot of traction. It started gaining traction with the film industry. And now people are like, oh wait, Smithville's pretty cool, and you don't have to stop in Bastrop anymore. They got the overpass there, so Smithville's really just about 10 minutes on the other side of Bastrop, which is only 30 minutes from the airport. So again, 45 minutes, I can drive 45 minutes. So now people are all the way out to Smithville. Small town, great living, great school district. You don't have people on top of you. Sound like a broken record now.
How about that? Well, Chris, is there anything that that you haven't said that you'd really just like to hammer home?
Man, I don't think so. There is one thing, and I talked about it a little bit in terms of finding somebody that knows what they're doing. If you're, I think you said this is kind of all over Texas, and you're doing that. There's opportunities everywhere, but be smart enough to know that, again, that you're not the smart enough person in the room. If you're living in Austin and you want to invest in Shiner, for example, don't go down there and try to do it on your own. Try to find somebody that knows the area and do it with them. Same thing. If you're trying to invest in San Antonio, I've got people that come to me and say, hey, I want to buy something in San Antonio. And I go, great. Here's the name of a realtor. Call them. Because I don't know anything about San Antonio other than where I like to eat and where I think it's growing. You need somebody local. So if you're not that low, and hell, even if you are the local person, because there's people that live in Dripping Springs that don't know that there's 5 breweries along Fitzhugh Road out here. They don't know what's happening out here. Find somebody that knows what's going on in the area that you're wanting to buy a house or invest in property or whatever. Find somebody that knows what the heck is going on and save yourself the frustration and potentially huge losses that would come with not knowing the lay of the land locally.
Absolutely, well said. Where can we find you, Chris? Are you on social media? How can we get a hold of you?
Man, I'm everywhere. I'm on the Dripping Springs home team, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'm not on TikTok. I am not on TikTok. I'm too damn old for that. But eventually I'll probably be on TikTok if they end up selling it to an American company and, all of that stuff going down. But yeah, Dripping Springs Home Team, my website also, drippingspringshometeam.com. Yeah, it's easy to find me.
Okay, absolutely. I'd be happy to put that in the description.
Awesome, man. I
But,
appreciate it.
yeah, well, Chris, I really appreciate it. That was some great insight, not only on the Austin market, the greater Austin area, a lot of small towns in between, a little bit about development. And I really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. If you need anything else, just give me a ring.
Absolutely, Chris. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Aaron.